Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hero's Journey podcast with your host, myself, Frank Book. And here we have Tanya, or at Tanya Shaped on X. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Hey, yeah, my name is Tanya. I've been writing on X since August. And my brand, if you could describe it in a few words, I'd say it's about mixing like authenticity, branding, writing, and just packaging it all into, the best U shape, as they say. Yeah.
So that's awesome. So would you mind delving more into what the U-shaped brand is, kind of how you came up with it in the first place?
Yeah. So when I first joined X, I was like, what am I to write about? Like, what do I write about? And then I realized, well, of course, we all started with platitudes. I think, I don't know about you,
I
but
did.
I did. Okay. Okay. So I started with that, but then I think 3 weeks later, I was like, okay, this is not working. I have to change something. And so I started sharing my stories, like personal stories, but also adding like my X journey, like, oh, guys, today, I crossed this many followers, or today I learned this and that, and just like shared my journey. And people started liking it more. And then I started adding pictures to it. And then it evolved eventually first into a U-coated brand, which, yeah, that was like in autumn. And then I just changed the name and a few principles. But a U-shaped brand is essentially about making your skill more visible to people. I mean, kind of like showing your expertise through the U prism. So most people think that whenever they share their personality bits or their stories, it kind of like draws people off away from them, or they think that authenticity is about, I don't know, putting your legs on the table or sharing your cat's life. But I show people that it's possible, and like it's a great tool to use your personality, your personal stories to like boost your expertise to for you to seem more of an expert. So basically like yeah, it enhances your skill and your brand. And I think we see it now in 2025 more than ever. Like people are switching. I see creators who used to post platitudes and now they're posting, they're switching to personal brands that are more personal. So, yeah, personal brands. Literally, they
Of
should be
course.
personal. Yeah.
But
So yeah.
so something that is that you made a pretty big realization there. It's a big change to go from, such a platitude focused content base to really who you are now, the queen of authenticity here on X.
Oh, thank
So
you.
what I'd say really is that what
So
kind
yeah.
of helped you make that realization, thinking, okay, platitudes clearly aren't working, and this is exactly what I need to try in order to succeed on here. Kind of, what
Mm-hmm.
made you make that realization?
Yeah. So I would say it like my personal life was affected as well, and everything was affected. So when I started writing, and actually didn't tell how I started and why I started writing. But when I started writing, I would spend 5 hours, 6 hours engaging a day because it was summer and I didn't have anything else to do. And then this engaging, like that's the only thing I like saw, and that was the problem because I didn't see any other way to do that. And so yeah, it took away my personal life. I was sleep deprived, stuff like that, and I copy pasted AI replies because I was like, I saw a platitude and I couldn't think like, what can I reply to this person? Like, this is literally some basic motivational quote, and I just didn't know how to reply, so I used AI. I would say that what made me go from platitudes to building an actual personal brand was first of all that I realized that this was draining. Second of all, after some time, I think I started seeing a few posts like banger long forms. I think like I saw Ben's posts and then I think I saw like Urban's posts. Yeah. And I was like, oh, there's another way. And that's how I started shaping my brand. I think it was like, I felt the fear to experiment at first because not many people do that as we see. Now, of course, it's a bit more, but yeah, it used to be worse. And so, yeah, I think experimenting helped a lot. Like, I just tried different styles, different formats. I even did yeah, I did share my date stories at some point, but we will not talk about them.
Yeah, for another time.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it was just And also the calls that I had with people, like in September, I would have like 7 calls a week or more. So yeah, it's mostly because people started texting me because it started blowing up because of these stories. And yeah, they kind of shifted my perspective and they were like, oh, there's like another way to do that. And you should keep it with those stories plus insights and like you're doing great. And I was like, okay, I'm not alone in this. Not everyone is writing platitudes. That's how I found friends. And a lot of them, I still talk to them now.
And yeah, I mean, I'd say that's what's great about a platform like X. You've got all your platitude posters, mind you, but you also got the people, that small little group who were really posting a lot about personality, about their
Mm-hmm.
authority in a really meaningful, unique way. And now that you and, so many other people really caught on to it, I'd say X is becoming more of a, unique kind of personalized platform where people, they share
Mm.
their own stories rather than just, wake up so you aren't broke today,
Oh yeah, you are the example as
Exactly,
well.
of course.
Yeah.
And another question I wanted to ask is that, I'm sure success didn't come immediately when you started doing, the U-shaped brand thing.
Mhm.
What were the first signs that people, appreciated what you put out?
So, I think the first like 1.5 months on X, I didn't have much engagements. I didn't have, a community of supporters because I've already built a community of reply guys. So I had to like change it all. But posting these stories, like every day, people noticed more and more cool people notice me and follow my stories. So first, my post started blowing up, and that's how like I saw a lot of support because like you're not doing something that everyone else is doing. I was like, okay, I'll keep doing it then. Then, as I told you, there were a lot of calls where people like express their support, but it's still like views are views, but you have to grow as a creator. Like you have to master your skill, like not just share your journey, even though that helps a lot, both at the beginning and like now that I'm still sharing it. As we know, monetizing is hard, can be hard, especially if you don't have, I don't know, a guidance figure. But this story is about my sales call, my longest sales call. So basically, I think it was in November, December. A guy was like very interested in my service. He had this brand connected to AI. I will not say his name, but he wanted, he had clear intentions. It was clear that he was interested and wanted to actually put in work to elevate his brand. And so we hopped on this call and I laid out like a whole notion, thing. I prepared like my camera, even I think like brush my hair, whatever. Uh, and he joined the call, and he's like, I'm hearing some noise, and I'm not seeing him on the camera. And I'm like, are you gonna turn your camera on? He's like, no, actually, I can't because I'm at work. I'm like, that's weird. Like, you said this was like the time you are free, and he's like, yeah, I'm free. Like, there's no clients now, and he worked as a barista at Starbucks, and so as I'm speaking to him, it's like 2 minutes in. He's like, yeah, like I can listen to you. No, perfectly. There's nobody here today. Like, okay, and then me being inexperienced, like I never really had sales calls before that. I mean, yeah. And I was like, okay. And I told him something. I think I spoke to him for like 3 minutes. He was like, yeah, oh, yeah. And like we communicated. But then I hear, hello, like, and someone's ordering a strawberry matcha. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. And then I was just like, no, I can't do that. And then I'm asking him like, what other time do you have when you don't work, when you're not working? He's like, oh, I don't have any time. And so that was it. And it was my longest sales call. It was also like in December or something. And basically, yeah, there's not much to say except the guy just he knew it was a free call and it was just like a profile audit, but
Yeah.
he kept asking me questions. And like when I told him some branding tips, gave him some useful pieces of advice, he was like, well, what brand name should I have? Or, well, can you brainstorm 3 like personal brand ideas for me? I'm like, it's your job, bro. It's your job. So, you on X, you encounter types of, you have many cool experiences, many weird experiences, but I mean, it's fun, you know, I remembered it, and I think now I'm gonna remember it as my first sales calls.
And yeah, I just find that insane. How long did that longest sales call go for?
It was supposed to be 30 minutes. It was like an hour and 10 minutes.
You
Yeah.
was getting a whole coaching program out of that.
I tried to, you know, yeah, but he was persistent. Yeah, I had to like, no, okay, bye. After an hour.
Mhm. Which, yeah, that's understandable because, it's still a free call. You can't just give out everything you have to offer in one, just free call.
Yeah.
That's why you have your separate service for that, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's like, I know you dropped the U-shaped guide not too long ago, and it's just like, imagine you just gave out 90% of the book for free.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
no.
yeah, speaking of that, what inspired you to write that too? Since I know you came out with that not too long ago.
So I actually came up with it, I think in December, like the idea.
Mhm,
No, wait, January. And then the idea was that I wanted to like fully analyze my posts, like my best performing posts, like what was not working and stuff. And I just sat down and I started doing that. And then, yeah, I thought, you know, people could benefit from that. And this turned into like, I don't know, 3 weeks of intense, 3 weeks of going to coffee shops and writing this guide
mhm,
because you know it's still a bit hard for me to work at home when it's so
mhm,
hot and I don't know, and just I think the idea was that yeah, people always ask me, like, actually, dude, why are
mhm,
your impressions so high? Like, I
mhm,
received a few messages like
mhm,
this, and under my in my comments, and I was like, well, I should unpack that and let the world know.
mhm,
So that's kind of what I did, and but I added, yeah. At first, it was like a viral post guide, which you know, then with the help of my friend, I kind of realized this is not the right name for it
mhm,
because literally all of my writing techniques they revolve around like the U-shape brand,
mhm,
how to like write stories so that they actually connect to your brand,
mhm.
how to keep the reader constantly engaged and just through your personality. And yeah, that's how I reframed it. And now I think it's a killer product and I'm gonna have it in my as my low ticket product for a long time probably.
That reminds me, I gotta take a sip of water too.
Staying hydrated.
But yeah, I mean, that's great though, because really sometimes you just kind of have this little idea in your head that turns into, okay, I'm really going to work on this, before you know, you spend hours each day really putting it together. But eventually it turns
Yeah.
down to products that you and your audience can really enjoy. Which that leads
Mm-hmm.
me to my next question is that what would you say a lot of creators you know, misunderstand about building a unique brand. Because, a lot of people, they try and build these personality based brands, but there's some people who simply don't do it as well as you or some other, personality
Mm-hmm.
based creators might. So, what would you say are just a few of the biggest mistakes they make doing that?
Mm-hmm. So the first one, as I already mentioned, I think it would be that they just don't understand what it means to write with personality.
Mhm,
They think, yeah, you should write about your daily life and that, you know, it will automatically make people interested in your service and your brand. In reality, you have to um, every story should come with an insight, whether, you know, it is a business insight. And it's
mhm,
not even supposed to be a story. Like you just what I used is analogies, a lot of analogies, and just my sense of humor. All of that is weaving through each and every one of my posts. I mean, of course there's a whole like writing system behind that. That's kind of
mhm,
what my guide is about. But I think the first mistake is that mm, authenticity is not about sharing. So they need to realize that authenticity is more about like making your skill visible to people, yeah, through
mhm,
the you angle, like adding those little, not just value, because people can bump value, but
mhm,
it's not all there is. Making it you know U-shaped. I'd say the first step, yeah, that I always teach people is explaining what that actually means and how to do that, you know, step by step. Another mistake would probably be that people focus on too many things in their branding, or they, yeah, like I've seen a lot of creators coming to me who do like motivation plus, I don't know, branding plus just AI. No, literally, there was a guy like that. But it's about choosing that one thing that you're passionate about, because people cannot remember you if there's too many things about your branding. Like, you can't, I heard this quote, which is like, if you write too many things, if your brand is about too many things, people, they are looking for a takeaway. And if there's too many things, they just can't take anything. So you really have to nail that one or two things, down. And yeah, that's also a common mistake.
So something else you mentioned, in a few of your posts, is that your identity as a creator is kind of irreplaceable. What would you say exactly is it that makes a brand irreplaceable? Because there's a lot of, different techniques, different ways that people brand themselves. So what is it that makes a brand something that can't be replaced by AI or, some other kind of new method coming in?
So this is honestly a combination of things. I would say that, well, the general idea is that an irreplaceable brand is the brand that other people cannot copy, or, AI guys cannot affect, whatever. But so it's a combination of your unique skill, your unique personality and stories, and how you package it all, because the packaging can also be different. So I would say that there's a few things that make a brand irreplaceable. Let's start with just what's coming into my mind, because yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. So the first thing that I really recommend people do is build their brand language. And I'm not just talking about, some words that only you use. For example, me, I use, the U-shaped brand. And at the end of each post, I write like, see you on the authentic side. That's my sign off, like, signature sentence. And then it's not just about this, the language. It's also about, for example, the pictures that I use. So the picture should complement your brand, the branded pictures. I'm sure you've seen a lot of creators doing that now. It's also about that unique skiller system that you're trying to sell. So for me, it's the U-shaped brand, but of course there's like many things to it. The system that can be replaceable would be a system like a very blurred and not very defined system. So creators come to me with a service that sounds like, I help creators with motivation, and this is honestly also, yeah, one of the biggest mistakes, but there's always a way, to improve your brand and make it go from this to an irreplaceable brand. Yeah, finding that unique angle takes experimentation, definitely. And building an irreplaceable brand is also, you can tell that you have an irreplaceable brand if people comment genuinely under your post. So I didn't have that. Now I do, thankfully. That means you've built, a supportive community, a loyal community that is ready to buy your service and just ready to support you every step of your way, even if you fail or, mess up, which you should share on X. Another sign would be, yes, that you have this prominent brand language, like, the nature guy, everyone knows who that is, okay? Like, the U-shaped brands, people know what that is. See, on the authentic side, like, I've seen people using my brand language, so that makes my heart warm. Another thing an irreplaceable brand should have, okay, let me think. Well, a unique writing style, of course. You can also achieve that through experimentation, or, by coming to someone who can teach you writing without line breaks or something. I think, yeah, an irreplaceable brand is just a brand that will stand in 2025, 2026, and like the years forward, without being scared that the algo crashes, some guru makes a mean post about them, like, oh, look at this creator. Nothing can shatter this brand, nothing can ruin it. And this brand literally is memorable in the minds of the audience. So they know you can target your audience's pain points through your unique angle and while adding personality. And like, people remember you, and you sprinkle it with some brand language, and you're like, people will come to you if they have any problem, if you're solving their problems constantly. And also, it helps that you're a cool guy. Like, if you're a cool guy and you're adding that to your post, like, you're showing who you are, and people can resonate. Like, plus karma and plus leads.
One. And something that's funny
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you about too is that I've seen people, your posts talk about it, where people literally analyze your post line by line. They go through every line, analyzing, okay, how can I be more like Tanya? How can I make my
Yeah.
content more like her? How would you say you feel about that, knowing you have such a dedicated audience?
So the first time it happened, I was a bit like, not scared, but
Mhm.
the guy wrote me at 2 a.m. and he was like, the time is 2 a.m. I'm analyzing Tanya's post. I'm like, bro, you should be sleeping. Like, that's an honor, but you should be sleeping, seriously. Another person had notifications on my posts and on my comments, like replies, to analyze how I reply to people, to analyze my posts. And then, yeah, just a different person, like, I think it's called hand copying, yeah,
Mhm.
my posts. I mean, I feel now I feel excited about it. I mean, this I never really saw it happening to anyone else, or at least they don't post about it. I did post about it. Yeah, I think that means I've built like a loyal audience, and that people were genuinely curious in why my posts perform well and why people leave their genuine comments onto my posts, and my posts are still getting high impressions, even though that's not the main goal. But yeah, and I think that's why people are analyzing them, and let them.
Of
Okay, let them. And
course.
yeah, some people just prefer saving the post, for later. Yeah, that's also, so I have two people who like save my every post. I don't know who they are, but keep going, legends. Hydration.
Of course, as always. But yeah, that's awesome, really. But something I wanted to ask you though is that how do you get in this mindset of, like writing these truly authentic posts? Would you say it's a hard
Mm.
thing to really nail down your voice exactly, or just does it come naturally for you?
I mean, there's a few things. So we're talking about creativity here, I think,
Hmm.
as well, like finding your writing style and creativity. Even in my guide, I wrote that if you, for example, want to make your post more interesting
Hmm.
and you want to use an analogy, that's like one of the ways, yeah, you can actually ask ChatGPT. Like, this is you will never hear this from me, but I'm saying this now only for idea generation, for analogies. You can do that if you're still practicing your creativity and it's hard for you to write, or you need some post layout. But the main thing is to write with your authentic voice. So you have to have, for example, a mission. And you asked me basically, is it hard to find your unique voice? As I told you, for me, it happened through experimentation. I think for a lot of people, they are not realizing what to write about. Like the first, I guess, piece of advice that I give them is think about like, what can you yap about for hours? And then you can start writing, that, and then see where it flows. Because I know there are a lot of mentors that want people to immediately like define their brand for many years forward, but my brand has evolved like 3 times, 4 times, and it's still evolving. So finding my unique voice, if we're talking about daily life and ideas, for my posts and for my brand, I would say I get a lot of them from my podcasts. I mean, the podcasts that I watch, or also just replying to the genuine comments that people leave, because they write some very good stuff, some books. But yeah, finding a unique voice is not just about what you like. I guess it's, the brand ikigai, what you love, what the market needs, and what your skill is. I'm pretty sure it goes like that. And so, yeah, just, you can start with the skill part. Like, if you're sure that you have a skill that people can benefit from, you can start with that and just shape it in your unique packaging. Or you can start with what you love. And then, like it was for me, I guess, I loved writing those stories, and then that became my service.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a journey, and it's different for everyone. But yeah, you can definitely do that.
Yeah, that's great. And something else about that too is that how exactly do you keep the reader engaged for the whole time? Because your posts are different. You don't just post two-liners or three-liners, but you're out here posting long form. So what would you say not only, keeps them going past the hook, but
Mm,
to the end, and then genuinely appreciating that content enough to leave some genuine comments? Because it's a tough thing to do with people's attention span. So what would you say really keeps them reading?
well, if I were to mention a few things, first of all, connect your story to an insight or make it transformational. So people love the transformation, and you really should be using it, even if your post is not about, in 2021 I was like this, 2025 a different person. You can use the transformation. For example, I used to, post platitudes, do this and that, or my client used to be like this. Now they are like this. And the thing is with transformations is that people see the before and, well, they obviously want to, read to see the after, but also I think it's called the curiosity gap. So they want to fill it. So they don't know what's, in the middle, and they keep reading. Like if I say, like, my client went from this to this, you want to know what's in between. And so people keep reading. So that's like one thing, to build up this curiosity through writing, through every line. Another thing that I use, I keep my content conversational. I wrote a post about it today, but basically before posting something, try, saying it out loud so that if it sounds natural or not, as if you're talking to a friend. And another thing that you can do is ask people questions like, and what happened next, because that also builds that curiosity. And yeah, but I think the main thing is just if you have that unique message and brand language that's like can be visible in your post, and if you're adding, like, you're goofing around, you're a little bit, you're adding your personality. Like I literally don't filter much of what I write. Like I leave the LOL or something. So that definitely also helps. But I would say the transformation, as well as the transformation, as well as asking questions, and also maybe leaving room for commenting. So I think a lot of the posts, like platitudes, for example, you can't, like, you don't know how to comment on them. And if you're sharing something personal, people can comment and they will resonate. So always like leave that part that people can resonate with, keep it, and that's like the main thing, honestly.
But yeah, since you provided advice that actually works there, something else I wanted to ask, and you gave some great tips there, by the way. I feel like a lot of the platitude posters are still around, hear a lot of what you have to say. And hopefully a couple of them are listening right now. If you're a platitude poster listening to this right now, listen to Tanya. She knows what
Yeah,
she's talking about.
I hope this
No,
podcast will change someone's life. Yeah.
for sure, yeah. Especially, people who are out here posting these two-liners constantly, But something else I'd like to ask is that what would you say is the biggest piece of branding advice that doesn't really work in practice? Something that everybody repeats over and over again, but something that really just doesn't work if you're trying to build a personal brand.
Something came up, but that's not. Well, let me think. So a branding advice that doesn't really work.
hmm But something that like everybody talks about.
I don't know why, but the first thing that came to me is like doing. Okay, now that's not really outreach again. Something that everyone talks about is, you see, like my problem is that I haven't like gone on my timeline since like September, and the only people I engage with are mostly the people who have this unique content. But I think a lot of gurus say that beginners should monetize very quickly,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
that's how their brand can suffer from that, honestly, because before you find your unique voice you cannot really monetize. And I think for me it was like huge stress, and because people gave me this advice all the time. I think it was September, October, like, you should monetize, you should start your newsletter now. I know it's been 1 month, but you should literally begin to monetize and doing all of that. And I've talked to some people, my friends, and some of them, they did a lot of free work, and there's no shame in that. Like, people love to, say that, don't ever do free work, but it's literally what, like, practices your skills. That's how I, mastered my sales calls. That's how, you can, my friends mastered their other skills. And so, bro, my mind went blank.
Okay.
Oh, I was talking about monetizing, gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so before you find that angle, you can't really monetize. You can't start a newsletter that will, because you won't enjoy it. And I think the mistake that gurus make, and they force it on their mentees. I don't know. They force their journey on them.
Mhm.
So if someone might come to you and they already have a skill set, or they already have maybe a perception of what their brand wants to look like, but the gurus, they just say, those mentors that force their journey onto others, they just say, you have to do it this way, and they don't really listen to the people who come to them, like their needs, their actual pains.
Yeah, I mean, if you're old enough with that question, I can move on to the next segment.
Yeah, okay, let's move on. It's too hot.
So, yeah, it's all good. So, what would you say is a part of your workflow that your audience doesn't know about? Like something that you do with your content or, the way that you work that your audience hasn't really known about just yet?
Wow, that's an interesting question. But you told me there would be interesting questions. Something no one knows about. I think people don't know that I still sometimes write posts at 11 like a.m. p.m.
Mhm.
because honestly, it's where my creativity flows. And again, this is about, like, I see all these people, like the majority of people posting about it. Like, I
Mhm.
start my day at 5, it's my focus hours. For
Mhm.
me, it's like the opposite. I'm an owl, and I want to start working at 8 or something. Like, that's what people don't know about. Maybe they didn't know about, like, me walking in nature and listening to podcasts and, grasping on
Mhm.
ideas from my posts. I also get ideas from my friends who are
Mhm.
not even connected to X. Like, just, they say something, maybe story, and I can connect it. Story worthy, the book I'm reading now, that's also been interesting. But yeah, about my workflow, honestly, I think it's pretty transparent. Like, there's no particular secret, except, I need to go to coffee shops sometimes to
Mhm.
actually put in the work that when I'm like building some offer or some guide. But yeah, and also maybe they didn't know that I pay $20 for my Loom subscription, but that's another. That's yeah.
Yeah, that's great, really. Knowing kind of your workflow behind it. And it's funny too, how everybody has their own kind of hours. For you, it's like that 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. hour. For me, I'm the complete opposite. I'm up at 4 and usually I'm working from like 4:30 to like 7:30. It's definitely interesting how each person has their own creative peak. And I feel like they should use the most of that too. They shouldn't just,
Yeah.
try and adapt to a 5 a.m. or a 10 p.m. schedule because somebody else told them to, but
Mm,
really have a schedule that works for them. So yeah, moving
yeah.
on to the next question here. Speaking about morning routines and old creativity routines, what's your morning routine like, and how does it really boost your writing?
Oh my god. It's funny you ask that because, like, I think a few weeks ago it changed.
Uh-huh.
So right now, since my uni is over and I just have exams,
Hmm.
and, like, I won't have to go to uni until September, I wake up at like 8, 9, sometimes 10, I gotta be honest. And then I have some high protein breakfast, and then I like either go running, which I just started, or I do cardio. And so then I have some snack, and then that's pretty boring. And then I listen to a podcast because in the morning, for some reason, ideas want to flow into my mind. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm open to new ideas in the morning, and that's how. Oh, and then I call my mom. Nothing fancy, all basic, pretty basic.
That's awesome. Yeah. Especially, listening to podcasts in the morning because, a lot of people, what they do is that they listen to it on their way to work, on their way back from
Mm.
work. And really, I feel like, people listen to podcasts, but they don't really get a lot out of them. They just kind of play them in the background. But you, on the other hand, you really learn from them. You're not just, passively kind of hearing it, but you're really listening
Mhm.
to it. So that's what I find great too, is that you really find places to learn from everywhere you go. So,
Mhm.
that's great. And speaking of that, is that, how do you keep your creativity at such a point where, you can always post long forms every day?
Mhm.
Do you ever run into writer's block at all, or would you say you're pretty
Mhm.
creative most of the time?
I would say that I definitely have sometimes, well, writer's block, but it used to be more, in like last year, I used to have a lot of writer's blocks. And I
Mhm.
think at that time, it was mostly because my whole brand was revolving around authenticity, but I didn't really give much like practical advice and value because I was kind of lost. I was like, should I? And then, as you start learning about like building a business, building a personal brand, you realize that there's just a lot of things, and that the main one is to really feel what your audience needs and just, target, like write specific posts that solve these problems. And even that, like, even if these posts don't get like high impressions, I see, people are saving them, and there can just be one person who benefits from your advice. I'd say now I have less writers blocks because of that, because I actually learned how to see those pain points. And I do market research. Like, I started texting people and asking them, like, what exactly do you struggle with in branding? What do you not know about writing? And that's really helping. So I think a lot of people, they write for their mom maybe, but that's what keeping them stuck, because they don't see the progress, yet they're writing every day, spending so much energy. So they should really, I think, focus on what their audience needs, but also not forgetting about the personality part, because if you just keep providing this value, it will be boring for you as well.
Of course, yeah. And that's great, really, just to know that your idea flows, even when it does get blocked, you eventually, find a way past that. And speaking of just writing ideas in general, since, you've made quite the transformation from going from this platitude poster to having your own U-shaped brand, let's say you were sitting down, with the Tanya of August of last year, the platitude poster, spending 5, 6 hours engaging every day. What's one piece of advice you would give her to get out of that rut, to get her to where you are now?
So, first of all, I mean, I would say, like, you're doing a great job. Like, keep experimenting, because you will eventually find your unique voice. Uh, wait, can you hear me? Because you kind of.
Oh, let's see. Everything go good
Oh,
here?
okay.
Okay, there we go.
So I would, if I met the Tanya from August, the first thing I would say is keep experimenting. Eventually, you will find your brand voice, and don't think that a brand has to be solid. You can always change it the way you like. I would also tell her that she should start doing market research and just talk to people more, because I never reached out to anyone, because people texted me, and and I just, and they weren't like, we were just talking about, how our experience on X is, and not really, like, I didn't DM my prospects or leads. Yeah. And then, so I would tell this Tanya that she should do market research, she should keep experimenting. To find her writing style, she should definitely try to write more long forms, because I used to do a lot of short forms. And also, I would say start learning more about business, because, and from the right people.
Of course.
Because, another story. So in October or September, when I had all of these calls, I thought actually they were networking calls, but apparently they were sales calls. Everyone was trying to sell stuff to me, but okay. And so all these people gave me this advice that contradicted, each and every other person. And so in my mind, I was just so confused. And because I had no one to listen to, and I couldn't listen to myself since I was a newbie. So I would say to the Sanya, like, don't take everyone's advice as like legit, because a lot of the people don't even know what they're talking about, even if they have, like, I don't know, 500, 800 followers. To feel like you're more guided, you can literally reach out to creators, asking them to help you. Sometimes a lot of creators are open to helping, like giving you a few tips. But also, don't do that with every creator. Wait, I would say don't don't take advice from everyone, but take advice from the people whose content you actually enjoy and who you see can target like the pain points. Like, learn from the people you aspire to be, not just from, successful people with a lot of views. And but I would say learning about business more through, books, videos, even Denko videos, honestly. I watch them. I don't know, literally following good quality, high quality creators who can target, your pain points. Yeah, and just learning to write like them, to build a business like them. Because when you don't have guidance, you need some And I think you should do it from the people you aspire to be, who
Mhm.
actually know their shit.
So yeah, I mean that's another great bit of advice that you gave too. I'd say a lot of the other people who are listening to that yet again to the platitude posters. Hopefully your life's getting changed right
Yeah.
now. And what I'd say, now that we've really focused in on the present, are there any future projects that you plan on working on right now that you'd be willing to share?
Actually, yes. I mean, so as you know, I released my guide and now I'm
Mhm.
like collecting proper feedback about it because some people are still reading it. Like in this guide, I also present my new service, which is
Mhm.
an offer that I'm testing. So basically, it's a Loom video, like a 15-minute Loom
Mhm.
video that with the profile audit, like some quick fixes you can do for your brand to make it more you and like just a personalized strategy for you. And like that's what I'm testing right now. And I think actually that could relate to this podcast. So the reason I'm doing videos now is because the videos were the reason I started X.
Mhm.
Like I started X as a UGC creator, which is basically a person who makes ads for brands, like video ads, and I was filming videos. And people have been telling me, and I've been realizing, like, why not combine the two things I love, like writing and brand strategy and like videos.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't want to say bye to me as a video editor. So I think it would be great. Like I love this service, even though I haven't got that many clients now because I'm still testing it. But this and in the future, actually, in a few weeks, I'm gonna properly launch my newsletter finally because now it is launched for like some people have access to it, the people who
Mhm.
bought the guide. And yeah, not to brag, but the open rates are 100. So I want everyone to see my stories. I think more people should know about like some of the stories I shared with you today or
Mhm.
some other hilarious and just interesting stories regarding
Mhm.
business. And honestly, a newsletter, I feel like now I'm ready. Now no one is forcing it on me, and
Mhm.
I actually love it. It's even sometimes more than writing long forms because there's like less line breaks or just you can express yourself more freely. So yeah, this is like the exciting one. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna like mention me working on my other offer because now it's
Mhm.
like at beginner stages.
Of course.
Gotta do proper market research. But I think the biggest one is the newsletter. Pretty excited, and I'm gonna announce it pretty soon.
That's awesome. And yeah, I'd say it's always exciting to have something new to work on because, you drop a product, people enjoy it, but you're like, okay,
Mm,
how can I make that even better this time? So it's good to see that you're really out there getting some more forms of media out there, really trying out these Loom videos, going to be doing this newsletter yourself.
yeah,
And it's wonderful, really, because as a creator, it's so important to always get out there to give your audience a new treat that they can really enjoy, whether that be newsletters, whether that be videos,
yeah,
new types of content. It's always crucial to keep that flow going.
yeah. Like you're getting a sweet treat every day by buying matcha. Why not? Give your audience some of it. Yeah, this was a great chat. Honestly, like yeah, I haven't yapped this much about my personal brand in a while. I think since I hosted my last space. So, you asked some great questions here and thank you very much for like this opportunity.
Glad to be the first one to bring you on to the first episode of the podcast. But yeah,
Mm,
thank you for embarking on this hero's journey, which it really was
yeah.
because you recounted a lot of, what got you into this in the first place. And
Mm,
now, what you're going through now and what you're going to be doing in the future. So I appreciate it. And before we
mhm.
go, if you wanted, somebody listening to this, somebody who's looking to grow their brand, one big takeaway that they could implement today, what would that be? Just one piece of advice you'd really want to give that person.
No, the most obvious one that comes to my mind is start building a brand language that will bring you your loyal audience and the brand of your dreams.
Mhm.
Because this is about building that irreplaceable brand. Without a brand language, you can't really survive this game of, all these brands. to
Mhm.
actually be memorable in people's minds, and to be memorable in this desert of platitudes, just you have to own it. You have to own your own language. You have to have a brand mission, which is like, it does powerful things. Like my mission is to make X less draining, less boring. And I'm doing that. And people see me doing that and they're like, oh my God, I want to join your mission. Like, let's do it together. And that's, it's so powerful. It's so powerful. Brand language, brand mission, just those little attributes can help you so much. It's not about some, huge things like that, like just people say build a brand
Mhm.
that I don't know, cares about your audience. Yeah, you
Mhm.
could say that, but it's not very clear. I would say like it's a combination of little things, but I
Mhm.
think the most important one is your unique voice and just start building that, brand language, start expressing yourself as you truly want
Mhm.
and just, yeah, see what happens. Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end. It was a pleasure having you on, Tanya, to bring you along with me on this hero's journey. And, for those of you listening on Spotify, make sure to drop 5 stars. If you don't want to do it for the sake of the podcast, do it for the sake of Tanya. I mean, she gave some amazing advice on here. I mean, this is like getting 2 free calls with her. I mean,
Oh
really, it
my
was
God.
awesome, really, just hearing from what you had to say, the queen of authenticity. And I'm sure you're going to keep on reigning because,
Thank
yeah,
you.
awesome
Hearing this
stuff.
from another hero. Yeah. Thank
But
you
yeah,
for having me.
no problem. And yeah, so that's about it. Thank you for listening to the Hero's Journey podcast, and I'll be seeing you next Friday. Bye bye.
Bye.
Okay, there we go.